When you've camped as much as I have, you start thinking you've seen everything the woods can throw at you. I've dealt with black bears, lightning storms, even a broken ankle halfway through a solo trek in the Cascades, but nothing, and I mean nothing, ever prepared me for what happened in Black Hollow. Let me be clear, I'm not the superstitious type. My name's Kyle Maddox. I'm 36, and I've spent most of my adult life backpacking through every national park west of the Rockies. I've got scars, stories, and enough gear to open a store. So when my old college buddies asked me to plan a reunion camping trip, I didn't hesitate. What none of us knew was that something was already waiting for us out there. Something old. There were 5 of us. Me, Mike, my loudest and drunkest friend, Seth, quiet, weird sense of humor, Corey, practical, always the dad of the group, and Ray, the new guy, married into our friend group, decent guy, little skittish. We picked Black Hollow for one reason: no cell service, no other campers, no distractions. It was a long-forgotten patch of forest in Idaho, technically unmarked on any official state maps. I'd stumbled on a mention of it in an old hikers forum, people calling it untouched, weirdly quiet, no wildlife. Should have been a red flag, but I read that as peaceful. We hiked in on a Friday. Weather was perfect. The trailhead was overgrown, but I had GPS coordinates. We made it to a clearing by early evening, an open patch of earth ringed by trees that seemed to lean in a little too close, like they were watching. We pitched 4 tents, cooked hot dogs, told the same stories we'd been telling since sophomore year, laughed till it hurt, drank too much whiskey. It was good, for a little while. That night, just before I crawled into my sleeping bag, I noticed something odd. A 5th tent. It stood maybe 30 feet away from ours, partially hidden behind a thicket of brush. I didn't remember seeing it when we arrived. It was old, canvas, military style, a muddy brown, no light, no sounds. "Hey guys," I called out. "Did someone wander into an old campsite?" No answer, just snoring and zipper sounds from the others. I walked over with my headlamp. The tent was zipped up, dusty, unused. I called out, "Hello." Nothing. I touched the flap, stiff like it hadn't been unzipped in years, but there were no cobwebs, no dirt inside the seams, almost like it had just been pitched. I backed away and went to bed, told myself I'd imagined it. In the morning, it was gone. I don't mean someone moved it. I mean it wasn't there. No tent, no trampled grass, not even a dent in the earth. I asked the others. They laughed it off. Mike joked I'd hallucinated a ghost tent. Corey said it was probably some hermit camped nearby. Seth didn't say much. And Ray, he just looked uncomfortable. I thought I saw something too, he admitted, but I didn't want to say anything. We brushed it off. Should have left right then. That night, around 2 a.m., I woke up needing to pee. The whiskey always does that. I stepped outside with a flashlight. The 5th tent was back, same exact spot, same canvas, but this time the flap was slightly open. I froze. I could hear something, not movement, not breathing, whispering, like wind through dead leaves. Dozens of voices, dry and low, all overlapping. I tried to make out words. I couldn't. Then I heard a zipper behind me. I turned. Ray was outside his tent, staring at the 5th one. "You see it too?" I asked. He didn't answer, just walked toward it. "Ray," no response. He knelt down and looked inside. "Ray," I hissed. I ran to him, grabbed his arm. He looked at me like he'd been underwater. "I saw my wife," he said. "What?" "She was in there, sitting, but her eyes." I pulled him away. We didn't go back to sleep. In the morning, the 5th tent was gone again. Ray was pale, silent. I told Corey and Mike what happened. They thought we were messing with them. Seth listened, eyes darting between us, and finally said, "I saw it the first night." I just didn't say anything. We all looked at each other. Something was wrong. I said we should pack up and go. Mike protested. Typical. Said we were being paranoid. Said we just drank too much and scared ourselves. said he was staying until Sunday. We agreed to leave in the morning. Ray barely spoke. Seth wouldn't make eye contact with the trees. That night, Mike disappeared. We'd heard him laughing around 11 p.m., drunk off his ass, singing old Blink 182 songs, and throwing bottles into the woods. Then nothing. I checked his tent at midnight. Empty. I checked the fifth tent. It was back. This time, it was glowing, not brightly. A soft, dull light, like fire behind thick smoke. I stepped closer. Something moved inside. A silhouette, shifting, jerking, like someone convulsing in slow motion. I called out. The silhouette stopped, turned, stared at me through the canvas. Its face was too long, wrong. I stumbled back, tripped over a root, got up and ran. Didn't sleep that night, neither did the others. We waited for sunrise. In the morning, the fifth tent was gone. So was Mike. No footprints, no trail, just his boots, neatly placed outside where his tent had been. Inside them were ashes. We hiked out, fast, no brakes, no talking. 6 miles to the car, but the forest had changed. Paths didn't line up, landmarks were wrong. The moss grew thick and high on trees that hadn't been there before. The birds didn't sing. Seth fell behind, wouldn't answer when we called. When we went back for him, we found his bag, sitting in the middle of the trail, zippers closed, nothing disturbed, but the inside was full of dirt, still warm. We ran. When we reached the trailhead, only Ray and I remained. Corey was just gone. We never heard a sound. We made it to the car, silent, shaking. Ray turned to me. I think we were 5, he said quietly. What? There were 5 tents. Ours. And his. Whose? He just stared into the woods. We invited him. We just didn't know it. Then he opened the door, got in, and started the engine. We never spoke again. That was 6 years ago. You won't find Black Hollow on the map, but I've seen other posts. Hikers disappearing in unnamed forest patches, mentions of a fifth tent, stories of people hearing voices, or seeing loved ones inside canvas walls. It's not just one forest, it's something older. It moves, it waits in the quiet places. I think the tent is how it watches, or maybe it's a doorway. Every time a group of campers sets up 4 tents, that's an invitation. A fifth one appears, and something else steps through it. So if you ever go camping, count your tents, count your friends, and if you ever see a tent you don't remember pitching, don't open it. I quit camping, sold my gear, deleted my trail maps, moved into the center of a crowded city, 10th floor apartment, surrounded by glass and steel and noise. I figured whatever that thing was, it needed trees, silence, shadows. But some things don't stay where you leave them, they follow. I first noticed it 2 months later, a man on the subway, staring at me. Not unusual in the city, but something was wrong with his skin. Stretched, pale, too smooth, like wax pulled tight. His eyes were the worst part. No whites, no color, just deep, glassy black. When the train stopped, and I blinked, he was gone. I thought it was a hallucination, until I got home, and there was a tent in my living room. Canvas, brown, old, damp. I stood in my doorway, frozen. My first thought, someone broke in, played a sick joke. I backed into the hall, called the cops. They came, searched the apartment. No tent, just the smell, like rotting leaves and wet soil. They laughed, told me to lay off the weed. I don't even smoke. That night, I dreamed of Mike. Not how I remembered him. He stood inside the tent, barefoot, smiling. His skin was peeling, and he had no teeth, just a black cavern where his mouth should be. He whispered, in that same voice I'd heard in the woods, "We have a place for you." I woke up screaming. The tent was there again. I tried to burn it, poured lighter fluid, dropped a match. It flared up fast, too fast. The flame turned green, then black, and then it was gone. Not burned, gone. No ashes, just vanished. But in its place was a circle of soot on the floor, and in the center, a tent peg, rusty, old, still warm. I kept it. I don't know why. Maybe proof, maybe a warning. The next day, my downstairs neighbor disappeared. Young guy, college student, loved houseplants and EDM. Gone, door left open. No struggle, no signs of forced entry, but someone had laid out his shoes neatly by the door, and inside them, ashes. That's when I started seeing the tents everywhere, in reflections, store windows, puddles, elevator mirrors, always behind me, never when I turned. Once I walked past a bus stop and caught a glimpse of a camping tent standing in the ad display glass. Inside, someone stood motionless, wearing my face. Ray won't answer my calls anymore. I tried showing up at his work. They said he hadn't been in since June. I asked if he left a message. The receptionist said, yeah, he quit over email. Then she paused. Kind of weird though, she added. His resignation just said, I went to lie down in the 5th tent. I'm losing time now. I'll wake up in different clothes. My boots will be muddy. I live in the city. Where the hell is mud coming from? Once I woke up with pine needles in my hair. Another time, a tick buried in my ankle. And last week, dirt under my fingernails. Deep, packed, like I'd been digging. I tried therapy, told my psychologist everything, minus the supernatural parts. Said I was having dreams, hallucinations, losing time. She listened, took notes. At the end of our 3rd session, she asked a question that made my blood run cold. Kyle, have you been camping recently? I froze. Why? She leaned forward, slowly, carefully. Because you smell like the woods, like wet canvas and ash. I haven't left my apartment in days. I've boarded the windows, covered the mirrors, sleep in the bathtub with the lights on, but the tent still shows up. Sometimes it hums, like breath, like it's waiting. I can hear movement inside it now. Whispers, different voices, calling my name. Sometimes it's Mike, sometimes Corey, sometimes my own voice. The other night, it started unzipping on its own, just an inch, then another, then stopped, like it's testing me. I think it's not a tent anymore. I think it's a mouth, and I'm standing in its throat. Last night, I made a decision. I put on my boots, took the old tent peg, and I walked toward it, because if I'm going mad, I need to know. If it's real, I need to see what's on the other side. The flap opened for me this time. Inside, more forest, but not the world I know. Everything was too still. The trees weren't moving. The stars were wrong. I walked. The air smelled like memories, sweet and rotting. And in the distance, dozens of tents, some open, some shaking, some crying, and one in the center, larger than the rest, a face pushed against its canvas, from the inside, smiling, waiting. It said, "Welcome back, Kyle. The camp that waits." The moment I stepped through the tent flap, the world changed, not dramatically. There was no flash of light, no booming sound, just difference. The forest on the other side looked like earth, smelled like pine and decay, but everything felt wrong, like it had been reassembled from memory. Trees grew in spirals. The moon hung too low, too full, never moving. The stars didn't twinkle, they pulsed, like breathing lungs of cold light, and the sky was the color of old bruises. I should have turned around, should have run, but the tent behind me was gone. There was only the forest now, and the path ahead. I walked for what felt like hours, days maybe. Time doesn't work here the way it should. The air never warmed, my breath never clouded. It just hung around me, thick as fog. Eventually, I heard the murmurs, voices, familiar. I crept through a clearing, and there they were, tents, dozens, hundreds, each one identical to the fifth tent that had haunted me. Canvas stretched tight, low to the ground, arranged in perfect circles, like some unnatural forested cathedral. Some were zipped shut, others trembled, whimpered. One shrieked, a long, echoing scream that never quite ended, as though the mouth that made it had no lungs, just memory. At the center was the big one, the first tent, The original. It pulsed with life, taller than the trees. It seemed stitched with dark red thread, thick as fingers. A man stepped out from it, or what used to be a man. He looked like someone halfway between alive and memory. Not rotting, not fresh, just paused. His skin was mottled, covered in names, tattooed, carved, and his eyes had no whites, just fog. He looked at me and smiled. "You finally made it back," he said. "I was never here." He tilted his head. "You left the door open. You invited us." "I didn't." He raised a hand. "Do you remember what you whispered before you fell asleep that first night?" "I didn't, but I felt it crawl back into my brain, like a centipede, a drunken half prayer, something stupid. God, I wish we could stay in this moment forever." He nodded. "You asked." We answered. The ground beneath the tents rippled. Shapes moved beneath them, shadows of arms, of faces pressing against fabric, like people buried alive inside canvas coffins. "They chose not to leave," he said. "Or maybe they did, but a piece stayed, enough to stitch together something real." He beckoned me toward the center tent. "It's your turn." "I don't want this." He smiled wider. "You already belong. The forest knows your name. You heard it, didn't you?" I had so many whispers, my name on repeat, not shouted, breathed. "Kyle, Kyle, Kyle." Dozens, hundreds, all versions of me, all the others calling out. I turned to run, but where? The path was gone. Behind me stood another tent, mine, fresh, canvas tight, zip trembling. I heard my voice inside, crying, screaming, laughing. I did the only thing I could think of. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the old tent peg I'd kept. It was warm, vibrating. I hurled it into the heart of the big tent. It struck like a lightning bolt. There was no sound, just light, terrible, red-black light. The fabric screamed, the forest groaned. Every tent buckled inward, collapsing, folding like lungs gasping for air. The sky fractured, cracks spreading like spider webs across the stars. And then, I was standing in my apartment, floor wet, air thick with pine, hands trembling, a burned hole in the middle of the carpet. The peg, gone. That was 2 weeks ago. I've tried to live normally since. I don't sleep much. When I do, I hear zippers. When I walk past parks, I see tents where there should be none. I passed an eerie last night. In the window was a display of canvas camping gear, and inside the largest tent, someone moved. They looked like me. Ray was found in Montana, naked, wandering a trail that didn't exist on any map, mumbling, "It's my turn, it's my turn." They're keeping him sedated. I tried calling Seth's sister. She said she got a postcard 3 days ago. No return address, just a drawing of a tent, and the words, "Stay forever." I think I closed the tent, but I didn't burn it. And if you ever go camping and pitch 4 tents in a quiet place, if a 5th tent shows up, don't open it, don't touch it, and for God's sake, don't lie down inside, because the moment you do, you're part of the forest now, forever. My name's Adam Pierce, and I have one rule about the outdoors. If the woods go silent, you get the hell out. I've always believed animals know things before we do. Storms, predators, earthquakes. If the birds go quiet and the crickets stop chirping, it means something worse than a bear is nearby. I learned it the hard way. It started as a guy's weekend. Me, my brother-in-law Ryan, and his 2 buddies, Devin, former Marine, too serious, and Lucas, laid-back stoner type, funny as hell. We picked a remote campsite in Colorado, deep in the San Juan Mountains, middle of nowhere, no cell reception, one way in, one way out, perfect. We hiked in, found a clearing by a lake, pitched our tents, and cracked beers before sunset. A campfire, cheap whiskey, and ghost stories followed, all the usual stuff. Then Lucas told us about something called the Quiet Man. He said it was an old legend from Appalachian folklore, but I'd never heard it before. The Quiet Man, Lucas said, voice low, shows up when the woods go dead silent. He's not a ghost, not a demon, he's a correction. A correction, I asked, like a glitch in nature, something that resets the balance when people stay too long where they don't belong. Ryan laughed. So what does he do? Snap his fingers, and we disappear. Lucas grinned. Not exactly. He takes your sound first, then your shadow, then your face. Your face. Lucas shrugged. That's the story anyway. We laughed it off, drank until midnight. I passed out in my tent listening to owls hooting somewhere far off. It was the last sound I remember hearing. The next morning, everything felt off. The firewood we stacked was scattered. Ryan's tent was half collapsed. And the woods, silent. No birds, no rustling leaves, not even the buzzing of bugs. Just total, unnatural quiet. It pressed against your ears like a vacuum. Made your heartbeat feel too loud. Where's the lake? Devon asked suddenly. I turned and froze. The lake was gone. Where water had shimmered the night before, now there was just cracked dry mud and rotting fish, like it had dried up in a single night. That's when we should have run, but we didn't, because Lucas was gone. We searched for 2 hours. No tracks, no gear missing. His tent still zipped, phone inside. Was can him sit, shoes inside, not a footprint in the dirt. It's like he stepped into the air and vanished. Ryan wanted to stay and wait for him. Devon wanted to hike out for help. I stood there, staring at the dead lake, and all I could think about was Lucas's story. He takes your sound, then your shadow, then your face. I didn't believe it, not really, but I couldn't shake it. We agreed to wait until sunset. We never made it that long. It started with Ryan. He was standing by the fire pit when he suddenly clapped his hands over his ears. Do you hear that? He asked. We looked at him. Hear what? He opened his mouth to answer, then froze. His lips moved, but no sound came out. He backed away, panicked, started shouting silently, then screaming, a dry, soundless wail. He reached for us. Devon tried to grab him, and stopped. Where's his shadow? He whispered. I looked. Ryan was standing in full sunlight, but there was no shadow beneath him, just grass. He bolted into the woods. Devon chased after him. I hesitated, but followed. What else could I do? We never found Ryan, but we found something else. About a mile from camp, deep in the trees, we came across an old wooden sign nailed to a tree. Faded letters carved into it, half rotten. He walks in stillness. Below it, pinned to the bark, was a photo of Lucas, but the face was scratched out, clawed out. Devon lost it. He tore the photo down, broke the sign in half, started shouting, swearing, threatening the forest like it could hear him. And then, he stopped talking, just like Ryan, mouth wide open, eyes bulging, but no sound. He looked down, raised a shaking hand. His shadow flickered, then peeled away from him, like it had a mind of its own. It stood for a second, mimicking him, then turned its head, and looked at me. I ran. I don't remember getting back to camp. I just remember falling face first into my tent, and zipping it shut like that thin piece of fabric would protect me from whatever this was. Inside, it was darker than it should have been, and there was a shape sitting in the corner. At first, I thought it was one of the guys. Then I saw the face, except there wasn't one, just stretched skin, pale and empty. No mouth, no eyes, a smooth oval of nothing. And then, it smiled, somehow, without features. It smiled. I blacked out, or maybe I dreamed. But when I opened my eyes again, it was morning. The sounds were back. Birds, bugs, wind. The lake was back too, rippling, perfect, like nothing happened. But the others, gone, tents empty, boots sitting neatly by the fire pit. Inside Ryan's boots, ash. Inside Devon's, a piece of paper. I unfolded it with shaking hands. Written in uneven charcoal lines were the words, "He walks in stillness." I hiked out alone, made it to the ranger station by nightfall. I told them my friends went missing. left out the rest. They searched, found no trace, no missing lake, no quiet woods, no photo, no sign, just me. And now, the woods behind my apartment are getting quieter. The birds used to chirp every morning. Now, it's silent. I went outside today and looked down. My shadow was there, but it looked like it was smiling. Part 2. He walks in stillness. It's been 11 days since I came back from the woods. I should feel lucky. I survived. The rangers called off the search for Ryan, Devon, and Lucas. After a week, their families think they got lost, maybe died in the fall, or bear attack. I've said all the right things to the police, but I'm not okay, because the silence is following me. It started subtle. My alarm clock stopped beeping. It just vibrated one morning. The sound function works fine. I tested it a dozen times, but when it rings at 7 a.m., there's nothing, just silence. Next was my phone. Music plays, but only in my earbuds. If I unplug them, the phone acts like it's working. Volume bar moves, song timer ticks, but no sound comes out of the speaker. Then my kitchen, the hum of the fridge, gone. The clink of ice from the freezer, gone. It's like something is muting my world one layer at a time. I called my sister 3 days ago, tried to tell her what happened, about the camping trip, the woods, the silence. She didn't laugh, she didn't scoff, she whispered, "Adam, I've been hearing something too." Hearing what? Her voice was shaking. Not hearing. It's like things are missing, like the quiet is alive. Then the line cut, not static, not a dropped signal, just dead quiet. That night, I dreamed of Lucas again. He was standing on a frozen lake, the sky black above him, no stars, no moon, just a heavy crushing stillness. I called to him. He turned, but his face was gone, smooth as glass, like wax that had never been molded. But he raised a finger, pointed behind me. I turned and saw myself, only it wasn't me anymore. My mouth was stitched shut, my eyes were black holes, my shadow stretched unnaturally long, twitching like it was alive. When I woke up, I wasn't alone. There were footprints in the carpet, bare, wet, leading from my bed to the closet. I opened the door, nothing inside, but the air was colder than it should have been, and silent. I started researching. The Quiet Man isn't just a story. It shows up in pioneer journals from the 1800s. Fur trappers, Civil War deserters, hikers and obscure Reddit threads. Always the same elements. A sudden unnatural silence. A missing person. Shadows that no longer match. Something watching from the woods. One journal entry from 1893 described it best. He walks where sound has died. He takes the voice, the light, the shape. You will not see him come, only know he has passed. When your mouth makes no sound, and your shadow walks the other way. Yesterday, I looked out my apartment window. On the rooftop across from mine, I saw someone standing perfectly still, facing my building. Long coat, hat pulled low, no movement. 4 hours. Then just before dusk, he slowly raised a hand. And I swear on everything I love, my shadow raised its hand too. I didn't, my body didn't, but my shadow did. I've started losing words now, not just sound, words. I'll be writing something, and halfway through a sentence, the word is just gone, not forgotten, stolen. When I look up the definition, it's not there, like it was never part of the language, like I've entered a world where reality is thinning. My voice still works, for now, but every day, I feel it fading, like I'm being erased, one syllable at a time. Tonight, I came home and found something pinned to my bedroom wall, a photograph of me, standing in the woods, next to a tent. The tent, I flipped it over, written on the back, in jagged charcoal lines, "It's your turn." I can't run from him. I understand that now. The Quiet Man doesn't chase. He waits, he watches the world rot into stillness, until you have no choice but to walk back to him. The woods are calling, even here, in the city. Every night, my apartment gets quieter. The fridge hum is gone, The street sounds gone. I live in the middle of downtown Denver and can't hear a single goddamn thing. I found Ryan's boots outside my door this morning. Inside one, ash, inside the other, a mirror shard. When I looked into it, I didn't see my reflection. I saw a tent, zipping open, and something crawling out. Tomorrow I'm going back to the San Juans, back to the dead lake, back to the clearing, because he won't stop until I do. He won't let me. If you find this note, if anyone ever reads this, please, for the love of everything, if the woods go quiet, don't move, don't breathe, don't run. Just close your eyes and hope the quiet man walks past you and not into you.